Good morning all and welcome to the Shield Safety webinar, our first of our 2024 webinars, and we've got lots up our sleeve in the coming months. I'll tell you more about that later. Today I'm welcoming Brian joining us, and we're looking at data insights, how we take insight to action and make changes in your safety performance and culture. So welcome, Brian. Give us a wave. We'll see
Hi
Brian's
everyone.
there. How are you, my friend? You well?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Very well. You'll notice, for those that have joined us previously on Shield webinars, we have some new swanky software here. Slight difference is we've still got Terry up in our Manchester offices monitoring the chat. If you have any comments, any questions, then please do place them in the comments box, and from there we will answer. And look at that, we've got some fantastic, got some old friends in there. Hello, lovely to see you, Hugh there saying good morning. Chris as well. So if you've got any comments, any questions, please do put them in the chat there and we'll pick them up, and either we'll answer them as the time is right, or we've got time at the end of the session to do a Q&A. So today is about, it's about how do we take data, how do we take insights, how do we make action from that. And at Shield Safety, for those of you that have used RiskProof for a long time, you know that we talk about having the right information at the right level. So be it the individual person who's logging on at a site as a site manager and accessing the safety performance of their individual site, rolling that up to a regional manager, and then it may be up to a divisional manager or the safety practitioner, the MD. So it's about having the right information at the absolute right place. And what we do is we take that information, we turn that information into insights, and that insight leads to action. And of course, that's the most important thing about this is making a difference, safer every day. How do we take that information and how do we improve the safety performance and culture within the organization? Now, one of the things, and those that know me, know my background, a lot of time within operations as well as in food safety and health and safety. And one of the things that I always find challenging is we talk about safety. It's safety first, safety always. Safety is the absolute priority of our organization. And we hear that over and over again. But what I find remarkable is that we still rely on information gathering techniques, lag indicators that quite frankly just have not kept up with the pace of development. And the safety metrics, safety measures, safety information, I believe, and it's the view at Shield Safety generally, is they should be as good as any other metric that you have in your business. And I'll give you an example. Could you imagine if you were a pub operator, a restaurateur, if you've got a chain of hotels, could you ever imagine telling your team to say, right, what I want you to do is write your sales down for the day, pop it on a bit of paper, stick it in the kitchen, stick it in the chef, and I'll come and review it every 6 months. We just don't do it, do we? Could you imagine to do that for sales, for labor, for stocks? This idea that you would hold it locally at a site and maybe pop in occasionally to see it. And we very firmly believe that for safety to have that same footing as other key metrics in the business, then the reporting systems, the method of collection of that information should be as strong as those other key business priorities. So if a business reports on sales, labor, stocks on a daily, weekly, monthly basis at different levels, then your safety system should allow you to do that as well. And that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about our approach to reporting safety key performance indicators. And Brian's going to introduce the changes that we've made to RiskProof over the last month or so. What I'm pleased to say is there's two things about these changes. Is they're part of some overall improvements that have been made. Again, for those of you that are familiar with RiskProof and I use it all the time, you'll see that we made some tweaks to the risk assessment module whereby you can assign risk assessments a lot easier. There's updates to the monitoring app, monitoring module whereby you can clone checklists, and again making the creation of checklists a lot easier. And we've done some work around the helpline safety advice line, again there on case types and reporting. So the changes that Brian's going to show you today are part of other changes that we're making to RiskProof, but also it's a nod to the future. Brian will show you that the changes we've made on the reporting functions around audit is just one part of it, but hopefully it will give you a taste of the direction that we're taking RiskProof and the opportunities for the future. I must say, before Brian starts, It's been a fantastic bit of work. We have not looked just at what great safety reporting looks like. We've looked at what great business reporting looks like, going back to that point around labour, stocks and sales. And also thanks to many of our clients at Shield Safety who have been involved, who have been trialling the reporting. We've had workshops, interviews, sessions for creating what this reporting looks like. So thank you to Brian for all his hard work over the many months, but also for those that have contributed to it. So what I'd like to do now is I'm going to hand over to Brian. He'll share his screen. He will give you an introduction to the changes that we made, a taste of what is coming in the future. And then at the end, I'll wrap up and talk a little bit about how you can extract that data through APIs and serve it up with other information you hold within your business. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Brian.
Cheers, Rob. Well, morning, everyone. And once again, thank you very much for joining us as we talk about this. As Rob mentioned, we've had a lot of good stuff that's happened over the last few months in terms of updates to RiskProof. And I'm only going to talk about one of the bigger ones that we're working on currently. We continue to expand on this. We're going to bring exciting new things to it, and you'll see why in a moment. And as Rob mentioned, we've worked with a number of customers, collaborating with them, just making sure that we're getting all the insights, we're understanding the pain points, and we're obviously continuously growing as we develop our product. There's a lot of things that's worked well in the past that we're just continuously looking to expand on and make additions for the future, and reports is one of those. What you can see on my screen currently is our current report offering that we will be moving away from. As you can see, the structure is pretty much similar to how most of the modules that we do have in RiskProof kind of works. You come onto the page and what you have is a list of reports which have grown over the years. So if we're looking at audits here, for example, you've got probably 10, 12 reports in there, and there is a few themes that you can kind of gauge from them around statuses, around actions, around scoring. And what we're trying to do is really compile these, and they have obviously served us very well and served our customers very well in the past, but it's about enhancing that, about making those data insights more easily accessible, making it easy for people to actually consume what they can see on the screen. So taking this as an example, this report under the name of section score by location, this effectively what you have is 3 filters at the top here. Before you actually see the data, you do need to set one of these filters through, and then you obviously press to generate the report. And what you're presented with is obviously data in a table format, and usually it looks like this, and then you've got ability obviously to download the report and do further analysis with it. And as we worked with a number of our customers, they have obviously highlighted certain things, and then we've also recognized a number of opportunities for us to improve on our current offering. And what you do have here is obviously a table grid, which is a breakdown really of your location scoring against each individual section that was part of the audit round that they were audited from. So there is a few insights you can gain from this, but some of it you may have to do external work outside of RiskProof. For example, you download this into an Excel file, and then you start manipulating the data, trying to get those insights, which will be valuable to you in terms of moving on to actions that you can take from those. And from here, what I might struggle to do looking at this is obviously pinpointing really which section or which location is doing the best or which location is doing the worst in a particular section. So it's the lack of sort of like sorting and filtering that you've got on this. That was one of the key things that we wanted to obviously highlight and obviously want to work towards. And from this, the visuals are probably missing a little bit. So it's about enhancing what we can see right now. So as I move on to start showing you sort of like the future of where we're going and what we've been working on so far and how people have perceived this, just keep this in mind so that you can see sort of like the difference and the extensive work that we've done to be where we are today. So if I just switch this to our new offering, which is under the name of Reports Beta at the moment, as we continue to release this at the present time, all of our customers are now got access to this page. So we have developed this starting with the scores function first, sorry, the scores reporting, which is incorporating a number of reports that we already did have, which were predefined. But with this, we're trying to get all that important information into one particular page, into one particular area that can easily be seen visually. So we've introduced charts, graphs, we've introduced visual badges, key performance indicators within this page. I'll go through the whole page, which each functionality um, stage by stage, but you can see what's coming next. We've obviously got other tabs that will be up here at the top, which will incorporate certain reports that you currently do have as well. I think Rob will probably confirm that in terms of the reports that we have a big list of them currently, where people might struggle to understand what am I going to get out of this. And the idea of this structure is going to be to put these into sort of like themes around statuses. Where am I right now? Where was I before? And what sort of actions do I need to take? Which is sort of like where your non-conformances will come in, where we'll start bringing in breakdown of your open stuff, your closed stuff. But as that, Rob, stop me if you need to throw in any questions, if anyone's got questions in the chat or anything like that, because I can't see them just so that I
Yeah,
focus on
Brian.
looking at this at the moment. But yeah, do let me know.
Yeah, Brian. Just reassure. We've got a great question from Tom. But what I'll do is I'll pick that up later. I'll interject if there's one that's relevant to the part you're presenting. Otherwise, I'll save them to
Okay,
the Q&A at the end.
brilliant. Cheers. Okay, so what we've got here is at the top, we've got our two primary filters really that we would use in terms of how these reports will work. Of course, with each report will come different filtering that we may apply. In the instance of the scores one, we focus this to be on location and audit round itself. So whereby as soon as you land onto this page, if you remember when the first screen that I was showing you, you would need to apply some filtering. But with this, we've got some defaults that are already preset, which you can change, of course. But these are presets to allow you to have access to the relevant information at that particular time. So, for instance, the round that's already selected here is the round with your most recent audits that have been published currently. So it means you're focusing on things that are currently happening at the moment. And then the locations will always be defaulted to whatever you've got access to, so everything that you've got access to. So if we take maybe a group level user who's the head of health and safety for the whole region, or for the country, that's you are going to see everything as a start. Then you can see obviously the averages across everywhere. You can obviously start looking at filtering this through. So as you can see from this, you've got multi-select ability, so you can select if it's a round, if it's a division that you're after, you can select that, and then immediately you should be start getting that. You can filter that, and then it will start bringing that through as well. And that's similar with the round as well. I can say I want this, or I can choose a different round that I want after that. But as I navigate down, so what we can see first here on your left on this first card, this is the average score that locations audited in this particular round, health and safety, scored, and with the score band as well that goes to it. And the score band colors will always be reflected with the background of the card in itself, where you've got 98%. As you scroll to your left, sorry, to the right, you've got this scatter chart, which essentially is going to give you scores and count of locations. So each individual dot on the scatter chart here is representing a score band and a score. So where you've got a number of locations which have scored the same score and achieved the same score banding, they will be represented by that single dot. So you can see here we've got 100 locations. Sorry, we've got 3 locations which scored 100% for this in this particular round, and you can start seeing that tail coming through. I think Rob is a big lover of this chart. He did really push it through at the start. So I think he was very pleased to see it come through, and we've had great feedback over this. And what it can do, there's loads of good things in terms of interactivity. You can interact with this chart. So I can say I don't want to see the greens. As soon as I tick that off, the chart immediately responds to that. Oh, I can bring that back easily by just selecting that green dot again, which is the green score band. So this might give good insights, but I'll give Rob the platform to share more in terms of how this chat works well for businesses, or what insights they can draw out of this.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brian. And Brian, you would have heard me laugh and probably smile on screen then. So when I first started describing this chart to Brian, there was a lot of confusion. And I must thank, actually, it was one of our clients, Kev. I won't name the business, but if Kev's on the call, he knows who it was. And we realized what we could do is take that audit data, and it was a very manual process and it took hours. But what we were able to demonstrate was basically, we look at it as normal distribution of the audit scores. And what you want to do is identify where, the bulk of your sites are performing. You want to identify those that are performing well to the right-hand side. And they can be houses of excellence, businesses of excellence. And then, as Brian explained there, the tail to the left-hand side. And what we've realized when we've used this chart, when we've used this discussion with clients, is what you want to do is shorten the tail. You may have 2 or 3 businesses on the left-hand side that are scoring low, but what they're doing is they're doing 2 things. They're bringing the overall safety performance of the business down. So if that's your overall metric, average score across all sites, address those 3 sites, you'll see your score improve. But also what it does, it allows you to really quickly identify those sites that are performing below the average, performing badly. And what we want to do is, over time, as you can compare this distribution, and what you want to be doing is drawing that bell curve closer and closer. So you're taking the extremes away. And we took a couple of goes at it, and I've probably still got the pictures here on my desk somewhere. I'm going, Brian, it's got to look like this, mate. I'm sending photos of my scores. But what I'm pleased to say is the feedback that we've had from clients is they really like this, and it's exactly how we designed it. Now, obviously, this works best where you've got a number at multiple locations. You're looking over 20 or 30 to get anything really meaningful out of this this normal distribution. But yeah, thank you, Brian. That saved me days and days of work crashing figures together from different audit rounds. And we know the clients really respond to it, and it's a great one to put up on a board report. There we go. You're saying how the business is performing. Well, let's do it as a distribution on a bell curve. So yeah, thank you, Brian. It's I'm a happy person to see it there.
That's great. So going back then now to that same round. So what I was just doing there whilst Rob was talking was just flicking through. You can see, obviously, as you change the round on there, it change. You've got different breakdown or spread out of those scoring that will come through as well. As we navigate down the page, immediately you've got 3 sort of like charts that we've put in there in the secondary area, and this, we're still looking, obviously, the same configurations from the filters that we've applied at the top here. And what you've got, the first chart here is giving you really the breakdown of your locations by their score band that they've achieved. So you've got your red, you've got your amber, you've got your greens. What we will be looking to do in terms of improvement is obviously adding percentages onto this donut chart as well, just to give you that quick snapshot of that information straight away, and you can see that count. It is a breakdown of this, but in a different view that you might want to reuse in different places as well. And then in the middle here, you've got the locations scores leaderboard table. And what this does is obviously allow you to see how certain locations or certain sites are performing against each other in that particular round. So you can actually switch between top 5 and bottom 5. And what some people might want to do is focus on those poor performing locations first. So you could switch this to bottom 5 first, and then you can see immediately it draws your attention with that red view, which nobody might want to see. So it's kind of helps people towards improving, towards trying to work towards how do we get ourselves into that green score banding. And you can quickly toggle back and see, obviously, your best performers, which you want to celebrate, of course. And then as you move to the right side, you've got the section scores, which is again another leaderboard, but focusing on your average scores within those particular sections for that round. So you can see in here, maintenance as a section is doing quite well, 100%. That's probably no non-conformances have been flagged or no issues have been raised in those particular areas. And then as you toggle to bottom 5, again, you start seeing trends, you start seeing where areas you might want to focus on, which might be to do, it could be documentation which is not in place, which most sites are failing on, and things like that. Again, Rob, you can weigh in on here in terms of areas or where people might be able to draw the insights from these particular leaderboard tables, because I think they're quite telling, or they can tell you a good story, or at least guide you towards focusing into particular areas or particular locations that might need further improvement.
I think the key there, Brian, is I think back to my times when I was a regional manager, and it may be for people that have groups, groups of businesses, and this helps you decide where you need to spend your time. There's never enough time in the day, is there? There's always more jobs to be done than that you've allowed the day for. What this does is it allows you to celebrate success, a phrase that you used just now, Brian, but also it can be helping you saying, well, where do I need to be spending my time? The other thing where this becomes really useful is, yes, so if we're going into a business review, we're going into a period, a monthly, quarterly review with the business, you can pull the dashboard up and you can say, well, this is how you're performing against your cohorts, against your colleagues. This is the area that we need to be spending our time chatting about. Or actually, you go, everything's green, everything's fantastic on RiskProof, really good job. Now let's move straight into sales discussion, labor discussion, marketing plans, etc. So what it does, it allows to direct the time. You talk about, information for insights for action. It may be that actually there is no action to be taken here. Let's go on and talk about promoting Easton. It might be about promoting fathers, whatever it may be in the business. But it's about where best to spend time, where to have the biggest impact.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Rob. And then as I go down the page here, so what you can now see is our newly improved data grid. So if I just quickly switch back to the initial one that I showed you, hopefully it's gonna still be available for me. I can just quickly bring that back. So if we're looking at round 13 here, there we go. And then as I generate this, so you can see from this particular table, what we've basically bringing to life is those figures, but in a different representation. So if you go down here, you've got additional filters that you can use. You've got sorting that you can use. Again, we're still using the top level primary filtering here. However, within this grid, I can now do a lot more without also affecting the charts that I can see here. So you've got in your location, I can quickly do a search of Manchester, and I can start finding location. Manchester isn't on that round. Okay, let's try a different one. I can do maybe a California. I think we should have a California here. Again, immediately that information starts bringing back, and I can easily close that off, or I can press my reset filters and back to the same place that I was before. And then with the division, we've got a drop down filtering available here. Again, you can do a sort, so you can do top to bottom. You've got your score bands being reflected as well with your reds, your ambers, your greens showing. And then you've got your scoring. I can say I want to focus on people maybe scoring between 97 and 99, and that will immediately give me something to work towards to say how can we get that little bit of a nudge for these locations to get them to 100%, because they are that close. So that might be the focus that you might have, or you could just say I want to see these to be the worst performers, so you start looking at obviously your worst performing ones first and say let's focus on the ones under 80%, for example, and see how we can improve those. And then you've got your audit dates, and then here you've got a breakdown. Immediately gives you a breakdown of the non-conformance that were raised by their priority. So you've got the numbers of criticals, highs, mediums, and your lows. And for anywhere where we've got more than zero, for instance, it's in the critical, it's going to give you this rustic look, which is going to really give you that number badge. Immediately, you got your focus, you got our attention to say, okay, this is the area we need to concentrate on. And obviously, as the risk go lower, then obviously the color in itself is a little bit lighter. But you can see some of them are here. I've got nothing to worry about in terms of any raised non-conformances, for example. But you might be, I want to focus on those with the highest criticals is what I want to be able to see. So you got your Michigan here, which has got 16 criticals, which might be the ones to address. Just a disclaimer, this is obviously on our test data. So it may not necessarily be a representation of how most of the businesses might look like, or how most of this, we do play around with some of this data, but it gives you that that look in terms of that visual of these are the number badges that I can focus on to be able to move towards improving our safety. Another thing that we've kept in place is obviously the ability to export this. You can still export this data into a CSV file, and then you can do obviously further manipulation with. Before I go into obviously the other part of this, Rob, do you have anything to add in terms of the grid and how it works, and what insights people can draw out of this?
I think you described it really well there. If you take it from what was our very static grid previously, we've used that for many years now. The ability, and I know again this is feedback from clients who have been trialing this, is that ability to re-rank, to be able to put in the fields. Suddenly it becomes alive, and very quickly that they're able to see where they need to be placing their focus. So no, I think that was a great explanation of how businesses could use it. Thank you, Brian.
Brilliant. And then a couple of things that are really cool about this. So with this particular grid that we're looking previously, there isn't much you can do to it besides actually exporting the data out of it into Excel. But you have a bit more interactivity that you can do with this particular grid. So for instance, I could say I want to focus on Sydney and Michigan just to see how these compare next to each other. So I can drag this row and bring it up here, and right, I can see them side by side, how they're performing. There might be locations which are on the same street. There might be locations which are in the same particular areas that you want to focus on. Sorry, excuse me, my battery's just gone. There we go. So there might be locations which are not really performing very well, or have previously been managed by the same person, for instance, that you might want to see next to each other. So rows can be dragged to get closer, or you can also say, let me move these columns, and then you can see this closer to the actions themselves, which will allow you to see, okay, who's got the most action that I want to focus on or not. Um, and then you can see here at the top, so we've got this particular grid that I'm focusing on right now is the overall scores, which is obviously what you've achieved at the time of the audit. You can take a deep dive of the section scores as well, which if you just select into that, which is really giving you more of the information that's already been presented in this leaderboard here up top here. So as you go down into this, it's really more about, in this particular section, what were the actions that were raised, what scores are we achieving in it. It is sorted by the actual section name first, and then obviously each location which was audited against that section is then obviously represented in there as well. So you can see obviously the first ones at the top here are probably the ones that are doing all right. We can change this to see obviously where we've got the most issues to address, really. So in terms of the practices and procedures is obviously a section that might need attention from the businesses, and you can see how each location is performing. So that might not necessarily be a business thing. It might be a question of changing the way that things are done, and that sort of thing within the business, which in here you're seeing the breakdown of each non-conformance that was raised against that particular section, or the total numbers that were raised in each for each particular location. So it's a quick switch between the two grids, and this really is what's replacing what we've got here, because it's essentially the same information but represented in a different way, represented in a way that you can consume it better. From here, I can't tell you which was the worst performer without really putting my eyes towards it to say, oh, Washington's got 22, but I can't see who's next up. But I can go back into this and I can quickly say, okay, let's sort this out by the actual section score that they achieved, and you can see that immediately. Or let's see why have they got that score, so you can see in terms of the numbers of actions that would have been raised out of that as well. And then the big thing here at the top is the ability to be able to export this particular page into a snapshot. So you can take this as a snapshot that you can present in a board pack, that you can present or you can share by just simply pressing download PDF. Anything that's on this particular page will then be taken into a PDF that you can share across the teams. You can then reuse. So what we're trying to do, really one of the bigger things we're trying to address, is the fact that people do spend a lot of time exporting data out of RiskProof and then having to create other reports out of it. But here we're presenting the information in such a way that it's easily consumed, it's easily presented in a way that people are able to draw their attention to areas that need the most attention. So what you would get is something that looks like this, which is obviously on the first page is going to have your round that you selected. If you had filtered by your locations, you can see that across as well. And then the 2 charts at the top, the 3 in the middle. Then as you scroll down, you have your whole grid also presented in the PDF as well. I know we've had some great feedback on this. Rob will probably back me up in terms of how useful this is. Rob, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're hearing the feedback is would that become my board report? It's great, or I can extract that image, and that's the image I want to use now. So again, it's yes, these are people who contributed and helped us design this, and others that have trialed it. So the feedback has been really positive, and I know, I'm sure, Brian, what you'll say is that this is just the start. This is a taste of the direction that we're going, and everything. It's about being graphical. It's about ease of serving up that information. So we're seeing this specifically on the scores part of audit, but there's sorry, Tom's just posted a question. I will answer that in the Q&A session there, Tom. So yeah, it's really positive feedback.
Great. Just before I finish up in terms of my stuff, so just to recap in terms of what we've done right now and where we're going, we've taken obviously a lot of time to work with and collaborate with our customers. In particular, we've got a group of customers in our focus group that we are in touch with quite regularly, getting feedback from them, understanding the pain points that they see in their businesses, and really trying to see how we can solve those problems for them. And as our product team has grown, we have done a lot more discovery sessions with them. We've taken time to understand exactly what they're after and how we can also improve our product. And there is a lot of opportunities that we're taking on board. As Rob said, we've got a number of great things that we've released more recently in the recent months, and this is just a taster for it. This is obviously the initial first page that we've worked on, which is the scores part of it, and we will be looking at extending this to other pages. We will be looking to extending the same structure, the same visuals. We will be looking to expand this within the audit module itself, and as well as other modules like monitoring, helpline, fire, you name it, anything, because the existing structure, it is similar across our platform at the moment, and we have taken time to recognize that. So the key things we've got on this is obviously the visual elements. We've got the interactive filtering, we've got KPI badges, we've got downloads and exporting capabilities, and obviously a newly and improved tabular data grid, which gives you those insights in a much quicker way rather than obviously taking the information out. That's still obviously a possible feature that we have. Obviously, people can still download the information and do further analysis on, but what we're trying to do is save people time in terms of how they see this data, because we do collect it quite a good number of information. We collect information in terms of when these audits are conducted. There is a lot from this. There is a lot of insights that people can take out of it. So it is about representing that information in a way that's easily consumable, rather than, for example, if you take this average audit score, in the previous reports, you may have to take that out and then go and work out the averages yourself. But in here, you've got that quick snapshot. If somebody asks you the question, what's the average score we are having in this particular round, or how does that compare with a previous round, for instance, you've got that information immediately. And we will be continuing to work with this structure across all those modules as well. So that's it really from me in terms of presentation of where we are and where we're going. There is some cool things that will be coming through. For example, we would like obviously to start being able to drill down into the data around this information that you're seeing. Those will be obviously upcoming future features that we'll be working on. For now, we're still building on the infrastructure to be able to support this across different areas of our system as well. So yeah, thank you very much.
First class, Brian. Thank you for the demonstration, and once again, congratulations to you and the team on the hard work. And And a personal thanks for taking my scribbles and making it look so cool.
Finally,
Hey,
that made sense.
remember, I'm a rat catcher. I'm a safety practitioner.
Yeah.
So something we're just going to talk. We've got a couple of questions coming through on the comments. Please add those in if you have any more, and we'll cover those off in a moment. As I said right at the beginning, APIs. This is something we're being asked for more and more, and we've developed an API link. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with the concept of an API, and what it allows businesses to do is, we are very proud of the reporting that we have in RiskProof. We're going to be even prouder by the time we've developed those further improvements that Brian's alluded to. But for some businesses, and again, power comes in information when you start pulling it and comparing it with other information, doesn't it? And you start rolling ratios off it, as an example. So if you want to be reporting your safety incidents, your near misses per £100,000 turnover, or number of staff, or number of covers served. Now, we're not able to do that in RiskProof, and quite honestly, it's not the platform to do it. But what we do is we can serve that data up in a form that businesses can take it and then put it into their own business information systems. So we have our API link available now, that the information can be pulled out of RiskProof, and we know clients are really enjoying that, and they're getting some amazing insights. When you start looking at that safety information, you start comparing it to team turnover, average weekly sales, peak trading outside of the capabilities of the unit. What you're able to do is get some really, really good information. And my vision, and I hope we can work with some business, is safety is often seen as a lag indicator. It's seen as an indicator on its own. But wouldn't it be amazing that if we can take that safety data from RiskProof, work to put it through an API into a business information reporting tool, that actually we have safety as a lead indicator, that we start seeing actually number of guest complaints. Does it in the month's time, do you start seeing that actually there's a drop in sales? So we have that API available now. We have a number of businesses that are using it. If you're a client of Shield Safety, please do talk to us if you think that's something that you'd be interested in. If you have a business information system already, how can we plug in the data from RiskProof to make the very most of it? What I would say again is, if you're a client of Shield Safety and this is the first time that you've seen some of the changes we made to RiskProof, talk to your consultant, talk to your account manager, give us a bell through the website. If you know me personally, drop us a line, and we'd be happy to spend more time to show you what the developments are and a little bit more of an insight of what's coming. If you think you have some ideas around how we can develop this further, again, we have those stakeholder engagement groups that we're listening to clients. So please do reach out to us. We've got time. I've got a question here from Tom. And Tom, thank you for your patience. You posted this right at the beginning. And it was a question around GDPR and around permissions and users. So there's probably a couple of things to answer on here. Is the first, we would always recommend that it's a business email address that is used. And that's for a number of reasons, not least the ability to manage that user, that ability to turn that user off, which the system allows to do easily. So we would always recommend that it is a business email address that is used to access RiskProof. The other thing that is key to RiskProof, and if the users will be familiar with this, is around access rights and access roles. What the system allows you to do is to develop access rights and roles very much dependent on that individual's needs and business needs. So for a general worker, it may be just accessing the monitoring module to enter checks, or it might be right up to a regional manager, area manager, head of safety role that has full access across the site. And then you may have one or two that have administration rights. So what we'd always do is work with the business to match the user's rights to their access, and that's really, really key. So they only see what they need to see to do their job safely. So that's a way that we can control the protection of data. The other thing that we'd say as well is when it comes to storing personal data. So it may be that you do a new and expected mother's risk assessment on there, or a young person's risk assessment, because that contains individual personal data that should be stored away from the system. That should be in an individual personnel file with the normal controls around it. So when it comes to storing personal data, like new and expectant mothers, like young persons, we would say use the information that's on RiskProof, use the pro formas, use the forms that are provided, but never store it on the system. That should be stored away. So hopefully that gives you reassurance on how we can control GDPR requirements. Again, we work with some very, very, very large businesses. We're just working with a new global business And what we can do is have conversations around access rights, GDPR, and then reassurances around why the system is compliant and penetration tests, etc. So if that's ever a requirement on your procurement side, then that's a conversation we can have and show our credibility and our credentials. So hopefully that answers the question around GDPR and gives some reassurance around the controls that are in place.
I was
So what I'm going to do is
just nodding there, Rob. Sorry, just to weigh in terms
yes,
of that aspect. So I think I did touch it upon as well when I started presenting the new page in terms of the locations that you do see as a person that's using the reports as well. They are already tailored to your access levels as well. So if it's already been set up
perfect.
yourself in terms of that your role, you will only be able to see the data that's reflected in terms of if you're a site manager for one location or you're a site manager for 5 locations within a particular region. Only that information is what you will be reporting on as well. So yeah, just add that on to that as well.
Great answer. Thanks, Brian. And I'm pleased to say Tom has come back in the chat and says, thank you. Great presentation, Brian. And thanks for the answer. And Tom, if you want to reach out to anyone at Shield Safety, if you want to understand a little bit more, if we can help with that setup, then please do just drop us a line and we'll do our very best to help you out. So you're not alone. We support many businesses with the system. And if we can give you a bit more insight, a bit more support, then of course, we'd be happy to do so. So I'm mindful of time. It's coming up. We're 40 minutes in. There's no other questions. I'm just checking on the chat. There's some lovely messages in there. Lots of people saying good morning. What it leaves me to do is, first of all, to thank Brian for your presentation. Brian, is this your first webinar you've done for Shield Safety? Or
it is.
Oh, wow. Good. Excellent. Well, thank you. Let's not make it the last. And I look forward to welcoming you back into the future to update on the next phase of reporting, which is incredibly exciting. So this may become a regular slot. Just to warn you now. so thank you, Brian, for your time now, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. At the beginning, I alluded to what the future webinars we've got coming up. So we've got a great series now that we're booking in. Our first one in April. Will and Terry and Mills have been busy. We've got a great lineup of speakers there, and we're looking at trust. Trust with the consumer, trust with your team. How do you build a trusting team? How do you communicate that to your consumers? How can they trust your brand? How can they trust your business? And that's for food safety, health and safety. So looking at the idea of trust, and I'm really looking forward to bring what is going to be a good selection of speakers there. And then we have others lined up, taking us right up until the summer. So the feedback that we have on our webinars has always been positive. If there's anything that you'd like us to cover, if there's anything that you've seen in the media, anything that you think is interesting, then please do drop us a line, link up on LinkedIn with me, or talk to your account manager or your safety consultant if you are a Shield Safety client. So some other kind words coming in from Chris there. Thank you, Rob and Brian. Great insight. Our pleasure, Chris. What I like to do is say, if I don't speak to you before, have a great Easter, have a safe Easter, and we look forward to coming back in April when we can talk trust. Okay, that's it. Have a great day, everybody. Go safely.
Bye-bye.